Hi, welcome to Career Convos. I'm really excited to be here today with Andy. Andy, thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Andy today is going to be sharing with us about his experience in the military, specifically the Air Force. So, why don't you start by just giving us a little bit of your background and how you got into this line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am in the Air Force. My job is explosive ordnance disposal, which is fancy way of saying bomb squad, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been in the military for almost 14 years now. It's been a really great experience for us. I will say right off the bat that it may not be for everyone, but for me and my family, it's treated us really well. So I joined the military when I was 24, and um,
Had you already
you know,
gone to college or where were you
I,
at with that?
yeah, I was, well, I got an associate's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd done 2 years of college, and I was trying to get into the border patrol because I speak Spanish, but it didn't end up working out for me. And so I went and talked to an Air Force recruiter, and we, kind of hit it off. And I was really interested in all the benefits that the military had. When I started, I just assumed I'd do maybe 4 or 6 years and then get out or see what other options were out there. But every milestone that I could have got out, there was the military life was great, and my family was loving it, and so we decided to keep going. And that was my wife and I. We just said, as long as we still are enjoying it, we'll keep doing it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been 14 years now. I am committed, and another 6 years. So, and then at which point, when I hit 20 years, I'll be eligible for a full retirement.
Yeah. So that puts you at age 44
Yep.
with full retirement.
Yep.
So that is appealing. That is appealing to old people like me, right? Okay. So why don't you tell us, this bomb squad, or what was the formal name for it?
Explosive ordnance disposal, or EOD.
Okay. So I know nothing about this. So I'm excited to kind of learn a little bit about what that includes. But why don't you share some of the parts of your work that you enjoy the most, and maybe how it's kind of changed through the course of your career too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it does sound a little bit dangerous, and it is. So, when I started out, I was studying criminal justice, and so I wanted to be like a military police, and so that's the way I was going. And when I went to select my job, I just had a bad feeling about it, and so I was talking to the recruiter. I said, what else is available? And he said, hey, you scored really well on your aptitude tests, and this job might be better suited for you. So I read about it and was like, yeah, it felt good and it sounded good, so let's do it. And I was a little nervous about what my wife was going to say because, hey, I'm going to go play with bombs for a living, but
Right?
yeah. So she was very supportive. It was my mother that was not on
Oh
board
yeah, yeah.
initially. So, but she came around. And so I joined in 2007. We were in the middle of two wars, so that was another concern. It's like, well, I'm probably gonna have to deploy, so I had to, warm my wife up to that. The good thing I love about the Air Force is that they give you the tools to succeed, right? I went to, so when I joined in 2007, I went through a 6-week basic training, and then I went on to technical training in Florida. And I was in Florida for 9 months doing learning how to disarm bombs. And so it's a joint school. So I was in class with, Army, Marines, and Navy. And so when we all graduated, my friends that were in the Army had already, like, they already knew when they were going to deploy. But in the Air Force, you have to have a minimum of 12 months on the job training before you're even eligible to deploy. So that brought me a lot of comfort, knowing that I was going to get some experience at a unit before I could see
Just went out
anything.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's kind of what happened. So I graduated my school in 2008, and I went to Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. I had never heard of it when they told me I was going there, so that was fun. But it is real close to St. Louis, and ended up being there for almost 5 years, and we loved it. But so, and then in 2009, while we were there, I was told I was going to Iraq, and so I went to Iraq July of 2009 to about February of 2010, and had a good trip. We got to help the locals a lot. Got to blow up a lot of old military ordnance that was just all around the desert, you know. So it was a very rewarding trip. Came home, then oh well, before I left, we had a baby, so she was, you know, like 3 or 4 months when I
Yeah,
left.
so you missed some of that time, huh?
I did. And then in 2011, we had a son, and then in May, and then in June, I deployed to Afghanistan. So I
Mm.
almost had, I had about a year and a half home
Mhm.
before I had to go again. And the good thing again about the Air Force, there's shorter deployments. We did 6-month deployments, whereas you know, I'd go and support the Army, and I'd get there, and they'd be on these 15 months deployments. So I get there and leave while they're still there. So they
So
kind of
so
hated
does
us
the Air
for
Force
that.
generally have shorter deployments then?
They do. I believe
Okay.
Army's on like 9-month deployments right now, but the Air Force has always been 6. If you end up being a pilot or somebody that flies, it's like 3 months, I think. But
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it is interesting, like even the, you know, when you're married or you know, you have a family, just there's that whole dynamic and how they can handle it too plays into it, right?
yeah. And fortunately, my kids were, you know, babies, so I just moved my wife back home with her family, and it wasn't a big deal, and she had all kinds of support there.
Oh,
So
that's good. That's good.
yeah. Yep. And
Okay.
I should note that while I was in Iraq, I completed my bachelor's degree as all, you know, distance
Oh,
learning online.
cool.
And then while I was in Afghanistan, I was able to complete my first master's degree. And so
Awesome. So you were
that was,
able to kind of use that time to do something pretty cool too.
yeah, you know, so my job, you know, we don't go out and look for bombs, right? What we do, we just kind of sit on base, and we'd let the Army find them, and then we'd go
Oh, okay.
disarm them and destroy them, blow them up, whatever. And so, you know, I'd find myself, I could sit there on base for 2 weeks, 3 weeks without doing anything, you know. But then other times we do like 8 or 10 in one day, you know.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, so while my teammates were, you know, binge watching movies
Yeah.
or playing video games, I was, you know, writing research papers. So,
Yeah.
there, you know, I'm grateful I was able to make the most out of that time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad, like one of the blessings of technology right there, right? To be able to do that.
Yeah, and the military does provide tuition assistance. So I mean, I was able to complete both those degrees without paying anything out of pocket. It
Yeah,
was,
which is amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, amazing benefit. Um, and so for the actual work, like when you go to work with the bomb, like what part of that work do you enjoy the most? Is it
Oh,
technical? Is it describe the actual work?
yeah, I love it. So I explain to people that it's high stakes problem solving,
Hmm.
and that's all it is, because it's you just have to figure out how the bomb works, and then figure out what you have to do to beat it, right? So it's just like building a puzzle, or, you know, just solving a problem. And you know,
Like I
unfortunately,
just have this thing in my mind where it's like a movie, you know, where you know
yeah.
the timer's going and
Yeah, so most of the bombs that I disarmed didn't actually have, like, you know, a timer ticking. Most of them were what we call victim operated, where is if you step on it, it would go off,
okay.
right? So the Army would find either a battery or maybe a pressure plate or something like that, and then they'd report it. We'd come out, and then we'd basically uncover everything, and figure out how it works. Then we'd disarm it, and then we'd blow up the explosives. It's always fun.
Yeah.
And then and then we'd collect evidence, right? And this was the most rewarding part, was that we'd take the evidence, send it into the forensics lab, and then they would try to they'd pull DNA fingerprints off the evidence, and they'd try to match it to somebody in their database. And then from there, then they could give that back to the Army and say, this is who's building the bombs, go find them.
Okay. So you feel like you really are making a difference in saving lives, and right? I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, so when I got to Afghanistan, the Army unit that I was supporting, they were new and they didn't know what they were doing. And unfortunately, they had some of their teammates that got hurt, and but we were able to go in and teach them how to find stuff. And then once we taught them, they were just awesome. They were finding things left and right, and nobody else was getting hurt. And it was very rewarding to be a part of that, and to like see them succeed.
Yeah. Awesome. So, what do you feel like are some of the key things that you've done personally in order to maybe advance yourself through your career? I know you mentioned getting your degrees and continuing your education. Do you feel like there's other skills that you have acquired over the course, or characteristics you developed? What are some of the things that you feel like have helped?
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, there's the thing I love about the Air Force. They like to invest in human capital, and they see you as their biggest asset. And so when I deployed again. Well, after we left Illinois, we moved to New Mexico, to Albuquerque, and we lived there for 6 years. And I deployed once out of there to Afghanistan. And when I came back from that deployment, I saw an opportunity to apply to the Air Force Institute of Technology. It's the Air Force's graduate school. And
Mm.
so I applied to the Masters in Cost Analysis program, and somehow I got accepted. It didn't make any sense, but I
Oh,
got
really?
accepted. Yeah, yeah. And so I got accepted. And so from 2018 to the beginning of 2020, the Air Force paid me to go to graduate school. So I got a second master's degree in cost analysis.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was an awesome experience. Like that, every day that, I got paid to go to school. And
Yeah.
um, so, and it was funny because every day somebody's like, what is a bomb disposal guy doing
Yeah.
here in cost analysis? But so there's so many opportunities in the military. There's so many different schools and trainings you can get. They give you over $4,000 to get professional certifications throughout your career. So there's just all kinds of opportunities, but the big thing is looking for them. Another thing I love is I get to supervise younger airmen, and I get to share my experience with them, but also try to mentor them, help them find those opportunities, help them reach their goals. And that for me is one of the most rewarding, fulfilling things.
Yeah. And so, do you feel like looking for opportunity and seizing upon, like just trying to find the opportunity and then going after things and being willing to take responsibility for your own career? Like basically you were the one that pushed your career forward by doing those extra things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been fortunate to have a lot of mentors along the way. When I applied to the Air Force Institute of Technology, I had mentors write letters of recommendation for me, and I talked to other people that I knew that had gone through it. And yeah, it's just it's been nice. I feel very blessed. I've had people in my path that have been able to guide me to make those decisions.
Awesome. Yeah. So seeking out a network of support was also
Mm-hmm.
helpful too.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. And so what are some of the challenges that you face either in your specific role in the Air Force, as a whole? What are some of the challenges that you guys?
So one of the biggest challenges is getting accustomed to the lifestyle, right? Because you go from living on your own, or and then all of a sudden you have an incredibly structured lifestyle. Because in basic training, that's what it is. They every minute of every day is planned out for you, and I kind of struggled with that at first, with people yelling at me, and
Mhm.
they do that. Like there's like a method behind the madness, is what they call it. They do that, um, to train you, to get you to understand like how the military works and everything. And so yeah, I struggled at first with people yelling at me and being told what to do all the time. But so that was a little bit challenging, but I got used to it. That's one thing that I've noticed with every challenge. You adapt, or you figure out something that works for you, right? And that's, I would say, that's a key trait that you need to have if you want to join the military. You need to be able to adapt to those kind of situations, because I've one of the places I stayed, or I lived in Afghanistan, didn't have running water, so we had to um, take showers with water bottle, like bottles of
Mhm.
water. So it's just little things. There's always going to be another challenge, but if you have a good attitude, and if you can adapt, then you'll be just fine.
Awesome. And so for the Air Force at large, do you feel like there's any challenges? I guess maybe the moving might be hard for some people. And like you spoke of the lifestyle. And then it does seem like just kind of a whole way of life. Like it's not just a job, but it's kind of a way of life, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, I always wonder like how the moving's going to affect my kids, so far they've done really well with it. And I think they enjoy seeing other places and meeting new people. But yeah, that's always been a big concern of mine. And then time apart, I've spent a, collectively over 2 years away from my wife. But that's just, we went into understanding that was going to be a possibility. And we don't count the days that we're apart, but instead we make the days we're together count, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
we've and we have an amazing support system too. Like my family and her family, they've been really good to us and open their homes to us as well.
Do
So
you feel like the military is supportive as well within their structure?
they do. It kind of, now this is where it kind of depends, because it depends on who you're with,
Mhm.
unfortunately. Some units are better at taking care of their people than others. But yeah, so every unit does have a key spouse, which, like, if you're gone, that key spouse will check in with your family.
Mhm.
The Air Force at every base has what's called an Airman and Family Readiness Center, and they do special activities every month for deployed families. So I mean, it's really cool stuff too. Like they go, they'd host an event at the water park, and they'd pay for everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's little things like that, but I mean, um,
It does
you
make a
can't
difference.
always count on that though.
Yeah. So, do you see any changes in your line of work as far as doing the bomb stuff?
Um, well, so that's one thing. We always adapt to the enemy, right? We always try to because we have to figure out what they're doing to be able to defeat them. So yeah, things change a lot. I've seen changes since I've been in, and I guess the big part of it is just keeping up with the intelligence, and trying to um, figure out what our adversaries are doing,
Hmm.
and then do the complete the training necessary to be ready, right?
Yeah. Something I was wondering is it getting more? technical or like technology becoming more integrated? Are you having to do a lot, or bombs still pretty much the same? Or I guess I'm just wondering, like, how much computer stuff compared to maybe when you started, is that a trend or?
Yeah, so it really depends on that's it. So every bomb is dependent on the bomb maker, right? Like what they have available to them. The Air Force sent me to a month-long school to teach me how to defeat like advanced devices that had very just very thorough and difficult setups. Like if it maybe it was set off by motion or something like that. So there are those kind of things are out there. Fortunately, they're not that easy to create, right? It take like if the person I'd be most afraid of is somebody that like an electrical engineer that knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
but most of the people that we're fighting against are, they don't have any formal education, and so
Right.
they're
Okay.
restricted to what they have in front of them.
Right. Okay. And it sounds like I mean, working in the military is very stable. I mean, it's pretty, you're not worried about losing your job. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah,
probably
that's been very nice. So in recent years, especially, you hear about. I mean, with the pandemic going on, we never had to worry once, and so yeah, you're right. It is very stable.
right. Right. So if you were to say, you kind of talked about a little bit about some of the things that you need. What do you feel like are the most, like if you had to pick two things that were the most important skills for somebody to develop, what would you say?
First, to be teachable, like humble. That goes so far. I mean, if you can listen, that was one of the first things somebody told me in the military. You have one mouth with two ears and use them proportionally,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So, you know,
I like that.
take time to listen, and especially like when you're starting out. There's so many people that have gone before and have that wisdom. So if somebody can be teachable, that just goes such a long way. Um, Next, I would say ambition is good too, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessary to have in the military. There's plenty of people that just kind of float along,
Yeah.
and they make it to 20 years, and they get a retirement, but you're in the service, right? So you have that opportunity to serve, and there's just so many opportunities around you. And so if somebody's looking for them, man, they can do so many good things.
Yeah, take advantage of the things that are available to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get advanced degrees, it's my understanding that also increases your salary. Is that right?
So, well, your salary is based off your rank, right? So, but I got promoted this last year because I was in that program.
Okay.
Well,
So it is related kind of.
yeah, it is related, but ultimately it goes off your rank and not your.
So maybe increases your eligibility, but
Definitely.
all right. And then last question is, what do you wish you had known about serving in the Air Force before you started? Was there something you can think of that you'd wish you'd known?
Oh.
You're like, wow, I had no idea what I was getting into. I think that probably would be a normal feeling I would expect people to have, because how can you really prepare for it? It's
Right.
kind of just a whole big thing.
I would say to learn to temper your expectations, right? Because coming home from my first trip to Afghanistan, we ended up getting stuck at a base for like 3 weeks, and it pushed our return date home. And my wife is
Mm,
just on pins and needles
yeah.
waiting waiting for me to get home. And I made the mistake of like, I'll be home by this day. And I wasn't. And it was just a lot of disappointment for her. And so you really, you just have to kind of temper your expectations, you know, hope for the best, but kind of expect the worst sort of. And, but yeah, it really has been an awesome career for me. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And, you know, if you're like, if somebody has those traits that we talked about, and if they, you know, don't mind being told what to do, then it is a great career.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing. I know this is going to be helpful for people, and I just really appreciate you sharing your experience.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm always happy to answer questions. So you can point in my direction.
Contact me and I'll send them to you.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
This episode of Career Convos is brought to you by Aligned Ambition. If you're looking for help while preparing to enter the workforce, need tools to build your resume, or are looking for guidance in finding a career path that is a great fit for you and your personal strengths, click on the link in the show notes to learn more about what Aligned Ambition has to offer.